Welcome to the Woman's Connection. I'm Barrie-Louise Switzen, your moderator. The Woman's Connection is a program about events shaping women's lives and helping one gain authentic power on a personal or professional level. So won't you stay tuned? Welcome. Our guest today is going to talk about how to turn on your inner light by combining metaphysical aspects and exercise. And I would like to welcome Debbie Mandel. Debbie, thank you for joining me.
I'm delighted.
What inspired you to write the book?
After a woman hits 40, she embarks on an age of wisdom. It's been part of my journey. As we go through our paces in the decades, we embrace certain experiences. Many of them are painful, and we grow. And it's those experiences that I came to share with the reader, my investigation, my creativity, and my research.
If somebody wants to hire a personal trainer, what key elements should they look for?
Proper form and execution. We need to read up and get educated. An educated consumer is our best bet. And get recommendations. And see how your body feels when you train. As women, we really have to know how our body works and feels. If it doesn't feel right to you, change it. A lot of people are selling snake oil.
In your book, The Mind-Body Connection. Would you explain this?
Nowadays, because there's a negativity in the air, where is the joy? And nowadays, because of the negativity and the national situations, we have to learn how to be happy by putting our mind and body into it. You create a synergistic effect, a greater empowerment. We can't separate ourselves at the neck. So what I think I have to do, and it's about living in balance, physically, mentally, and spiritually.
You talk about being conscious, energy boosters, and energy reserve. What do you mean?
Well, in the book, that's the pivotal chapter to beginning our journey towards happiness by letting go of the past and being in the moment, in the present. And in order to do that, I have to know what costs me in energy and what boosts me in energy.
So how do you determine that?
Here are some key things that are very logical, and you will recognize them. A good diet is key to an energy reserve. We are not creatures of deprivation, that we should starve ourselves. We're like a car. We need to be fueled. I need to drink water and be hydrated, or else I'll be irritable. I need to get my sleep. I'm not sleeping right. I have a chapter on how to combat insomnia. I'm going to be irritable just like that. That's a big drain. How about when I have unrealistic expectations? That's a very big drain. We don't think about that. But once I tell you about it, you become conscious of it. You'll try to gear your expectations to things that are attainable, to simple things, and be happier. How about assuming responsibility as an energy booster? See, on the flip side, we have to know what elevates us as people and what costs us energy.
Well, it's a constant in each of your chapters. You start with the mind and body, then you go to prescriptions, then a meditation and exercises to address each individual problem. Explain the mind-body prescription.
Okay, what I did is to put concretely emotional tools to help people and things that we can implement readily.
For example?
Training to be conscious. We're not conscious. We're thinking about so many different things. I'm not present in what I do. Stir your coffee backwards. Very simple. See, there are a lot of activities we can do to break what we normally do and to start to think about things. In burnout, I advise people to learn something new every day, to stimulate the self. Nothing deadens the heart like routine. So if you learn something new every day, then you are combating burnout.
Do meditation, and in all your meditations, there's a variation.
Yes, they're to target each mindset, and because I'm a writer and I love the word, and the word said is never dead, I write poetically. So I wrote meditations viscerally from the inside out to target each life situation rather than give you a generalized meditation.
Example of a meditation for money, creating more money.
Here I talk about generosity of spirit. When we are more generous with who we are, then we are able to attract money. When we are stingy with our feelings and giving of ourselves, so that the meditation that I came up with was going to a Pacific island where happiness is not measured in money, but in sitting with the natives, actually the tea ritual. And I take you off onto those experiences to show us how much money do we really need to be happy. In a meditation for healing, I have a section on people who have experienced painful trauma. I have one with the tree of life.
Oh, interesting.
And how the energy goes from the tree into me, and how we are rooted in the earth, and we feel spirituality from above like a tree. And the color of healing, according to the Kabbalah, is green.
The third part of the book, of each chapter, is the exercise. Do you need expensive equipment to exercise?
Not at all. Again, you need your body resistance,
All right.
and you need your motivation. So we need intention, attention, and implementation. You can have some dumbbells at home, balance pods, a medicine ball, if you want to keep going into different creative venues, because we don't want to always do the same thing. Our body grows with change, but it's mainly just getting yourself going, whether it's parking the car a few blocks from your destination and walking, or it's doing squats, which is a wonderful exercise for women because it uses all the lower muscle groups responsible for balance, and we
Terrific.
strengthen that.
If you're traveling on an airplane, or if you're in a cramped subway, or someplace that you really can't move around, do you have any specific exercises one can do?
Well, it depends how inhibited you are. Me, I guess you could figure I'm out there, I don't care.
Very introverted here.
Yes. That's one thing I put in the book about expressing ourselves as women. And that's very important that we open up to that. But in terms of exercise, let's say I'm in a crowded train or in a plane and I want to move around so I don't get blood clots. Here is the way to do a squat seated in an airplane or in a chair, waiting in a doctor's office, anywhere.
Okay.
I sit down, okay,
Right.
and I drive it up through the heels and I get up. Why don't you try it? And see how, and you tighten your glutes and your hamstrings while you do it. Watch
Okay,
how
so
the,
just-
okay, we're sitting, we're not incorporating our arms, and push up from the heels. Do you feel it when you tighten your glutes and your hamstrings? We'll do about 20 of these, right? You're going to feel it.
yeah.
Is this a great squat? Because really,
This is
when you
terrific.
squat, you want to sit on an imaginary chair. Nothing reverses the clock like exercise. And again, it does everything for you, for your heart, for osteoporosis, type 2 diabetes, cancer,
Wow.
everything. And it's easier to prevent disease than to treat it. And if you have it, it helps you maintain it. And it makes you think better and be happier. It's a great stress reliever. I think we have 4 rooms in our house: physical, emotional, intellectual, and spiritual. Walk into every room every day.
One of your exercises, I can, I say, I do.
I can, I do, I will, exclamation point. It's a walking meditation, 4 steps, and I literally see the words coming out off the floor. I stand with my shoulders back and my chest open, kind of like a ballet move. My heart is open now, and I have a good posture. And the words are coming off the ground. My heel crushes each word. It's important to
what-
visualize.
All right.
So, I can, I will, I do, Exclamation point. And the faster I do it, the greater I'm implementing it. It will tell me at what stage I'm at. I could take it to a jog because it will empower me. I'm doing auto-hypnosis, aren't I? Physically and mentally.
About the balls and some of the other things.
And the
that you're
balance part. Well,
Okay.
the ball is great. You know how we love to do stomach exercises, abdominal? Yeah, we do. And that's our core.
All
Our
right.
core strength. Everything, this is the center and everything emanates from there. We need to, and that protects our back to have strong abdominals. And
All
we
right.
women have to be tough. So here's another way to do it, as well as to have a little cardio and to work the upper body, the pectorals and the triceps and the biceps, which women are a little weaker than men. So let's turn back to back. Okay.
All right.
We're working our obliques to have a nice waistline.
Oh, this sounds good to me.
Cardio,
All right.
right? You feel the weight of the ball?
I feel, yes.
We could use a heavier ball as we progress.
How many
So it
rotations
becomes
of
a
these?
well, I could do 25. I mean, it's up to you, 3 sets of 25. But just to feel it and show our audience how this is done.
So what if you're by yourself?
Okay, if you're by yourself, I would get on the floor and
Okay.
I would have a mirror and I would pass it to the mirror. I would get on the floor like I'm doing a regular sit-up
Right.
and pass it to the mirror and come down again. And very importantly, hold my abdominals in tightly to protect my back, coming into the floor and exhaling on exertion.
These.
These are balance pods. They're inflatable. They have a nice grip on the bottom, right?
Right.
And when you stand on them, keep your eyes straight ahead for good spinal alignment, and you hold in your abdominals to create the balance. That's where your balance is coming, and you put your heels towards the center, you find your spot. When you get comfortable with that, you can do squats.
Debbie, why don't you show us what you're talking about as far as doing the squats?
Well,
And I'll watch.
first we want to achieve, you know, it's shaky and we want to get our feel for it. And then we come down, see, and slippery for me too. You can do planks on the ground.
What's
for
a plank?
Oh, you want me to show you?
Absolutely.
Okay, we'll see what happens with this mic,
Okay.
but hopefully a plank is another form of an abdominal and to help your lower back. It also strengthens it. I'm on the ground and I'm holding my stomach in and I go up and down, up and down. And then to break momentum, see how I hold?
Yes.
Now if I want to do
Fingers spread out.
Now if I want to do hamstrings, I can touch with my knees and straighten. Touch.
Okay, in my dreams I can do this.
No, you can. It's like, and see how long I'm holding?
Oh,
and
yes.
I tighten my abdominals. And I can do this in a hotel room. No one will hear me.
That's true. They hear me
you wanna
because I-
try that?
No, no, that's okay. That's okay. I enjoyed watching you do this.
But it's a very good exercise because I do the push-up for my upper body and I do the plank for my lower body.
What would you like to leave the audience with?
Well, I would like the audience to know that life is hard. How can we be anything but kind? And we should be compassionate. Compassion has 2 levels, empathy and putting back and doing something. And I think we all need a vision. And our best vision is to be the best we can be
Listen.
and to be happy with that.
Debbie, thank you so much for joining me.
It's been an honor.
wonderful. I've helped you learn some wonderful exercises to do at home or while you're traveling, because I know I have. Stay tuned. Don't touch that dial. We'll be right back with another episode on The Woman's Connection. I'm pleased to announce The Woman's Connection has been invited to help Marlo Thomas search for contributors to her second book, Right Words of Inspiring Stories. You can log on to Woman's Connection or write me and learn how you can be a contributor to this contest. I only have 5 books to give away. Welcome. Some people know how to brag, that it's delightful to listen to them. But the majority of people are so obnoxious when they brag, it just turns you off. And with me is Peggy Klaus, and she's going to talk about her new book and how to learn how to brag. And aptly titled, her book is called Brag, The Art of Tooting Your Own Horn. And I would like to welcome Peggy.
Hi, Barry.
Nice meeting you.
Nice to meet you.
What made you decide to write this book in the first place?
I actually had a father growing up who would always say to me, Peggy, don't toot your own horn. It's really not becoming, and you will get rewarded if you just do good work. People will see that. And I took that with me all through my childhood, young adulthood, and I went to Hollywood, and you can only imagine what happened in Hollywood, which was because it's the tooting capital of the world. Everybody was tooting, and I was getting rejected from producing and directing jobs. And then I realized I had to figure out a way in which to talk about myself that felt comfortable for me and would also get me jobs. And so that's what happened. I started creating these little, what I call monologues, which are now what I call bragalogues. And then when I left the entertainment business, I just transferred that into the business world and helped executives and other professionals how to talk about themselves as well as their companies and their products.
What keys would you suggest somebody develop when they're developing their bragology?
Their bragology. No one has ever said that before, Barry. I love that. Bragology. I think it might be too late for the book, but I'm going to put that in. Well, first of all, they really have to develop their best authentic self, which is the self that comes out when they are really comfortable and at home with friends and family. The part that comes out that smiles, that's friendly, that's humorous, that is articulate and conversational. And what happens is that when we're in situations like bragging situations, the best parts of ourselves don't come out. We tend to what I call melt down, and so we become less humorous, less friendly, less articulate, and so we have to be our best authentic self.
All right. How do you do that in bragging?
Okay. Well, first of all, what you have to do in terms of some style things, we know that eye contact and being heard, vocal volume, the passion with which you say something. You know, when you, I'm sure, talk about someone that you adore, it's much easier for you to talk about them. So the passion and the energy and the excitement that you have is just radiating. And so that's what we have to pump up, that passion, that excitement, as though you're telling me the most exciting thing that's ever happened to you.
There's different styles of bragging. What's the difference between somebody who's saying, oh, I am the greatest, versus somebody who says, I'm the greatest?
Right. Okay. So it's not just passion and excitement and energy. There is certainly the people like you're talking about who will go on and on and on and just blab endlessly, right? We hate them. The ones who will give a laundry list of their accomplishments. I did this. I did that. I did this. They will interrupt. They won't ask you about themselves. They will exaggerate or downright lie. So we hate those people. So you definitely don't want to do those kinds of things, and I would never tell anybody to do those kinds of bad bragging techniques. But what I would say is that if you avoid those and instead talk about your accomplishments in a story-like fashion.
Can you give us an example?
Absolutely. Let's say, for example, somebody comes to me at an industry conference and they come up and they say, Peggy, what do you do? And I say, you know, it's funny. Last week, when someone asked me the same question and I told them that I was a communications consultant, they said, oh, you mean satellites and substations? And I said, no. It's really not that kind of, communication. It's the communication between people. And I do this for all sorts of business professionals and attorneys and medical professionals, really anybody who needs it. And I get to do this in an array of areas, and I work with them from the CEOs on down to associates on helping them to be able to communicate better with different people and to lead their groups better.
Okay, so that was the bragology.
Yeah, bragalogue.
Bragalogue.
Right.
All right. But if you were going to, how would you have said it before
Okay, so that I might have said, if you asked me what do I do, and I would say, I'm a communications coach. I work with corporate CEOs and also attorneys and lawyers, and I help them with their speeches and maybe testifying in front of Congress. And I work with all sorts of different folks.
Okay, so in other words, one is a very scaled down way of talking about yourself, and the other one is embellished.
Yes, is a bit embellishing with a story, because in the first one I said when someone have asked me, and I use some humor, and I use some definite examples and anecdotes to explain it.
Okay, so those are some of the key points to keep in mind when you're doing
Absolutely.
it.
So avoid the laundry list, I, and make it into a story that's woven together with very distinct images and examples.
All right, because, well, how can you do that when you are doing a so-called elevator pitch?
All right. Well, an elevator pitch, I guess, is really what we call that 15-second kind of thing, or 30-second when you get in the elevator with the CEO. Well, it really takes just a short amount of time. And so I could get onto the elevator with my publisher, and I could say, hello, we've never met. I'm Peggy Klaus, and I just want to thank you so much because you just published my book, Brag, The Art of Tooting Your Own Horn Without Blowing It. And I have to tell you, I never, ever thought I would write a book, and this has been an incredible, incredible experience. And I've never given birth, but this is the closest thing I'm going to give to birthing. And that's, what, probably less than 15 seconds.
So you've got your points across.
I've got my points across. I used humor. I introduced myself. I made a connection with him. I thanked him for employing me and giving me the opportunity to do a book.
How can somebody weave a tale for a bragology?
A brag-a-lot.
Bragalogue. Why do I call it
I don't know.
bragology?
Bragology is great. I don't know. Maybe that's a study of bragging. I love it. Maybe it'll be my next book, Bragology. I'm going to go down and write
But
that
how do
down.
you do it when you're in an interview and you don't want to come off as too pompous?
Okay. Again, the pomposity comes from all the things I've listed, the laundry list of things. I did this. The condescending, oh, I've already done that. A tone of voice that's rather strident and pretentious. So that is bad bragging. But good bragging would be taking that resume that sits on the interviewer's desk and making it into a story. So saying, for example, I just had a graduate from the University of Pennsylvania, and she said, you know, I want to apply for a job on Wall Street, and I've got this, I want to say audition, but interview, and actually I'm thinking,
It is an audition.
Right, audition, right? You know, I want to do this interview. I have this interview next week, Peggy, and so what do I do? Because I've never had a job on Wall Street. And I said, well, probably many people who are on Wall Street never had a job on Wall Street. You're 22. I said, but what is your relationship to finance and what you love about it, and why do you want to go to Wall Street? And she said, you know, it's funny. I worked for my grandfather ever since I was 4 years old, and he had this great dry goods store in the South, and every summer I would go down and spend my summers with him, and I started just unpacking things when I was really little. Then he let me do the cash register. Then he let me do the books and the payroll. And she said, I just loved it. And by my 17th year, right before I was going to go to college, he let me do all the kind of inventory. And I really loved working with numbers and working in business. And I said, there's your story. And no one would think you're bragging. But you've just mentioned things that you've done. You've translated it for the interviewer, and you've mentioned important things that you've done.
So you made it human.
You made it very human. And you really put those little, what I call brag nuts, you know, well, brag bites, little nuggets of impressive information and memorable items that are in there that talk about who you are.
If somebody's changing careers, they would also have to go through something like this also.
Absolutely. I had another client who had a very successful consulting firm on her own, and she decided that she wanted to go back into a bigger firm. Right? She wanted to leave her firm.
Right.
And so, of course, the first interview she had, someone said, why? You're successful. Why would you want to come back at a time when most of the people your age want to get off planes, right? And you want to get on planes. And she said, when I was 20 years younger, and I had 2 children, and I was getting ready for my 3rd, I decided it was too much for me to be on the planes all the time, like in a big firm. And so I started my own firm, was very successful, had wonderful clients who I will dearly miss and who hopefully I can bring to the firm. But I realized that for me, the life choice was I needed to stay around and be a mother and also be a consultant. And now that my youngest daughter is going off to school, it's time for me to get back into a bigger firm where I have other colleagues. I miss the collegiality of other consultants, and I'm really ready to get on a plane again. And she got the job.
Wow.
You know, it's taking what could be a negative, a delta, why is this woman doing this? And putting it into a positive and really telling her story, as you said, making it really human. Talking about your accomplishments. If you talk about it with that excitement and in a story form, using very descriptive images, then it comes to life and people can't wait to hear more. Or with the boss, rather than just plunking down the assignment that she gave you, you can say, listen, on her voicemail, I just want you to know that I think you're going to find some great stuff in there that I discovered over the weekend, worked really hard on it, would leave back, but I'm really proud of it. So who would think that that's a bad thing to say? And that's what your boss needs to know, because when it comes time for promotions, bonuses, bigger and better assignments, don't you believe that the person who's able to toot their own horn is going to get that?
What would you like to leave the audience with?
I think that the thing that I really came to know for myself after Hollywood and going into the business world is that we have a right to do this, and that it's wonderful to be able to take a look at what you've done in your life and to be able to be proud of it, because there are so many times that we say, I should have done this, I should have done that, I could have done this.
Shoulda, woulda, coulda.
Right, exactly, and we beat ourselves up.
Right.
And why not be able to take some time and revel in what we've done well and be able to share that with other people so that they have an intimacy with us that's really, really wonderful.
Terrific. Peggy, thank you.
Thank you, Barrie.
And thank you for joining us. I hope you've learned something about how to brag.